Okay, so let's talk about Jonah. We all think we know the story, right? The guy, the storm, the giant fish, it's a classic. You've probably seen it in children's books. But what if the story we've all heard isn't the real story at all?
I mean, that's the iconic image, isn't it? A man swallowed whole by some enormous sea creature. It's the first thing that pops into your head when you hear his name. But is that really what this ancient book is all about?
Because, honestly, the fish is just a tiny, tiny part of a much deeper and way more challenging narrative. The story we think we know is really just scratching the surface.
A much better way to think about this story is this quote from the source material. It's a mirror held up to the human heart. See, this isn't just about a runaway prophet. It's about us. It's about what happens when God's incredible kindness collides head-on with our own sense of justice.
So first, to really get what's going on, we have to look at the prophet's pretty ironic past. Like, who was Jonah before this whole crazy mission even started?
And this is absolutely crucial. Jonah wasn't some rookie. The Bible tells us in 2 Kings that he was already an established prophet. And get this, he had already delivered a message of God's mercy and restoration to his own nation, a flawed and frankly undeserving Israel. So he'd seen God's compassion up close and personal for his own people.
And that compassion is built on this core idea of mercy. So what exactly is mercy? Well, the source defines it perfectly. It's not getting what we deserve. You know, we earn judgment for our mess-ups, but mercy is when God just withholds that punishment. Jonah's own people had been on the receiving end of this exact kind of mercy.
Okay, so with that background, God gives Jonah his next assignment, and it is a mission to absolute monsters. The command itself sounds pretty simple, right? Get up and go to the great city of Nineveh. Just simple words, but the implications, they were absolutely staggering.
Because Nineveh wasn't just another city. It was the capital of the Assyrian Empire, a nation that you could really only describe as a terrorist state. These guys were infamous for their brutality. We're talking about torture, flaying prisoners alive, and then hanging their skins on the city walls, burning teenagers, parading around with decapitated heads on poles. They ruled through pure, unadulterated terror.
To put this in perspective, theologian Tim Keller asked this amazing question. Would a Jewish rabbi have lasted in 1941 if he had stood on the streets of Berlin and called on Nazi Germany to repent? I mean, that's the level of horror and danger Jonah was being sent into.
So what does Jonah do? He runs. But why he runs is the hinge on which this whole story turns. He wasn't running from danger. He was running from God's mercy.
He doesn't just say no, he gets up and runs in the complete opposite direction. God says go east to Nineveh. Jonah books a ticket on a ship heading west to Tarshish, which back there was basically the end of the known world. He wanted to get as far away as humanly possible.
And this is the point. Right here, Jonah wasn't running because he was scared for his life. He was running from the character of his own God. He was terrified that God might actually show compassion to these monsters, to his nation's greatest enemies. He just couldn't stand the thought of it.
So Jonah's rebellion, it has immediate consequences. It leads directly to this incredible drama out on the open sea, the storm and the sailors.
So an amazing irony starts to unfold on this ship. You've got Jonah, the prophet of God, on one side, fast asleep down in the hold, completely uncaring. And on the other side, you have these so-called pagan sailors, and they are desperately praying to their gods. They're throwing cargo overboard. They're doing everything they can to save themselves. The man of God is silent, while the godless are crying out.
It gets so bad that the ship's captain has to go find him, and he yells at him, "How can you sleep at a time like this? Get up and pray to your God." I mean, think about that. The pagan captain has more spiritual urgency than the prophet. He's literally rebuking the man of God for his apathy.
This whole confrontation forces everything out into the open, and it leads to this moment of truth. One man overboard.
So the sailors, they cast lots to figure out who's responsible for making the gods so angry, and surprise, surprise, the lots point to Jonah. They corner him, and he finally comes clean. He tells him he's a Hebrew, that he worships the God who made the sea and the land, and that he's running away from him.
And when they ask him what they should do, Jonah gives the most stubborn answer you can possibly imagine. He says, "Throw me into the sea. I know that this terrible storm is all my fault." He doesn't repent. He doesn't pray. He's basically saying, I would rather die than see God show mercy to Nineveh. He'd rather be fish food than see his enemies forgiven.
And the sailors' response is just this incredible contrast. These supposedly godless men are so noble. Instead of just chucking him overboard, they try to row to shore. And when that fails, they actually pray to Jonah's God. They say, "Oh Lord, don't make us die for this man's sin." I mean, they show more compassion and reverence in this one moment than the prophet has this entire time.
So they throw him overboard, and the effect is instantaneous. The sea just grew calm. The raging storm just stops.
And just like that, the sailors were saved. They were totally awestruck by the Lord's power, they offered a sacrifice, and they vowed to serve him. So Jonah's disobedience, ironically, ends up leading to the conversion of this entire crew.
But that leaves one big question. And Jonah? He's sinking down into the abyss, right? Facing certain death for his rebellion. But the story isn't over. The Lord had arranged for a great fish to swallow him. Now, this wasn't punishment. This was a rescue, a very strange, terrifying, divine intervention that sets the stage for everything that's coming next. To be continued.